Good morning and welcome to another Talk Let's conversation. Go with me to the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, verses 1 through 58. Now, I'm not going to read all these verses. I've got one verse that I'm going to read. I think it's verse 37. But in your spare time, please go back and read all of chapter 17. This is a very familiar story. I mean, we all know it. It's a story about David and Goliath. So take some time and go back and read it because I found some things that I didn't realize what was in this story. And I'm going to share that with you in a few minutes. But how many of you know that we all face obstacles? All of us, every single day. We all have what I call giant moments in our lives that we need to overcome as well. This is a season for Thanksgiving. Not just Thanksgiving, the holiday, but to be thankful for family and friends and loved ones. I just pray that you enjoy this holiday season. And I pray that I give you something today to chew on that takes you through the holiday season, that you can enjoy even more with your family. But make sure you love on your family. Please love on your family. Family is the most important thing, the most important thing. I told you honesty is the best policy when you think about this life we live and the things we get ourselves into. If you're not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anyone else. You can't. It's got to start on the inside because inside of all of us, we have a giant on the inside that equips us to face all these giants on the outside of us. Let me give an example. Kamala Harris had 107 days to run for the President of the United States of America, the shortest time in history. And she stepped out there and she allowed them to volunteer her for this particular role, if you ask me. I mean, I'm quite sure she said yes, but we asked her to step out there and run and to win. And all she had was 107 days. Do you know that most people plan 10, 4, 8 years in advance to run for this prestigious office? I mean, come on. That was a momentous task to ask her to run in that short period of time. Somebody should have called timeout. She should have called timeout. You see, your friends, your political party, your constituents, your church, your job, people around you will volunteer you for other assignments as if you don't have anything on your plate already. I mean, your desk is full. But if you're not careful, if you're not honest with yourself, you let people volunteer you. Voluntold, they call it voluntold. They voluntold me to run. They voluntold me for this assignment because they see something in you, and that's a beautiful thing. But they don't see all that needs to be seen. That's when you have to be honest with yourself. You have to say no to some stuff. Yes to some stuff, but no to some stuff. But hey, I'm sorry. That's not enough time. You're setting me up for failure. See, that's when you're honest with yourself. Mike Tyson, the age of 58. Here he is fighting Jake Paul, 27 years old. Come on, come on. A YouTube influencer who's turned semi-pro boxer, if you will, on Netflix, of all places. This big fight. Now, Mike looked good months before. I mean, I watched him. He's training. Mike looked real good, looked tight, looked fit. But then he got sick. I think they said he had a bleeding ulcer, something like that. He had to have so many pints of blood. Well, let me tell you right now, if you have to have blood, you weak. You're weak. And he looked so weak. In that ring, I mean, Mike had a knee brace on. Come on. What boxer you don't have a knee brace on? I mean, you have to be fit and ready. I don't care if this guy is an amateur, whatever you want to call himself, semi-pro, whatever he is, boxer. You can't get in that ring. But for 20 million, for 40 million, oh, I'm getting in that ring. I hear you, Mike. I'm getting in that ring. But Mike wasn't honest with himself. I mean, come on. After being sick, after being on his deathbed, getting back up and training and then coming back out, they postponed the fight. See, he wasn't honest with himself. He wasn't ready. Not now. He wasn't ready. But the show must go on. Has a giant of a heart to step into the ring. But boy, he looked bad. Ooh, he looked bad. I mean, real bad. But he took on this giant moment that he didn't have to. I know the money is good, but sometimes you have to delay some stuff. You have to say no to some stuff. Wow. Just like your Dallas Cowboys. They can't find momentum. I mean, it's a mammoth of a situation for them to win one game. I mean, come on. It just don't happen within them. Will y'all please understand, as the fans, please understand, quit wishing for something that's just not going to happen. Reminds me of the stories in the Old Testament about Jacob and Esau. Remember, Jacob stole his brother Esau's birthright, and after 21 years, Jacob had ran away, and he was with his uncle Laban. And after 21 years, we see Jacob coming back home. But then we see Esau coming out, and Jacob thinks it's going to be a fight. So Jacob puts his least servants that he, didn't like, or his wife who he didn't like as much, Leah, and her children. He put all them up front. As Esau is coming, he sent Esau treasure and all type of stuff. And Esau, I don't need that. Esau came to love on him. Isn't it something when someone you've wronged has a more forgiving heart, a giant heart of forgiving you, and you wrong them? That's what Esau has. Esau has a forgiving heart, a giant, a mammoth heart, a massive heart to forgive his brother who had wronged him. Wow, that's a beautiful thing. You see, we look for giants in what I call familiar places. I mean, people we know that should be doing good, or how they should take this and cuss this person out and get on this person, hurt him, put a whooping on him. No, 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 no. Remember the prodigal son when he returned home? His father seen him from afar off and said, "Hey, get out the robe, get out a nice robe, and get his ring, the signet ring, the family ring, and go kill the fatted calf. We're gonna have a feast. My son who was lost is now found." A forgiving heart, a heart, not blaming, not saying "I told you so." No, no, a heart of thanksgiving, of welcoming him back home. A giant heart. We talk about being forgiving and having a giant heart, but boy, when do you put it on display? Remember Joseph? His brothers sold him into slavery. And then there was a famine in the land. They had to come see him. Didn't know it was him. Had to come see him, come see Pharaoh, and he's second in command. He had he had a giant heart as he pulled them out of a famine and saved them. See, that's the kind of love we need. That's the kind of forgiveness we need in this earth realm. There are moments in all of our lives that we're asked to do something bigger than ourselves. Or you up for the task? I pray you are. Because we face what I call colossal, gigantic, gargantuan challenges on a daily basis. But they're here to make us more knowledgeable, if you will, give us more wisdom, to give us more experience, because we're cutting our teeth, if you will, on things that are really not that big if you think about it, but they're strengthening us for the fight to come, because there's a fight coming, and you have to be careful that you're not fighting that giant on the inside of you, because there's a giant on the inside of you who will sabotage you if you don't watch out. That giant on the inside of you, you've got to bring some peace to that thing before you can face all the giants on the outside of you. We find ourselves in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 1 through 58. One verse, verse 37. Keep this verse in your spirit for the rest of this conversation. This is David making this statement as he's talking to King Saul. He says, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine." The Lord did it, not I, but the Lord will rescue me from the hand of the Philistine. He's done it before, he'll do it again. I told you, we've all heard the story about David and Goliath. You've got two armies, the Israelites and the Philistines, getting ready to fight. They both on a hill. Israel's on this hill, and the Philistines on this hill. And there's a valley between them. And nobody will go and fight. They're just taunting each other for 40 days. 40 days, they're just going back and forth, back and forth. And Jesse, David's father, he sends him to the battle. He says, "Go and take your brothers," because three of David's brothers were soldiers. And he says, "Go take your brothers these 3 happy meals, if you will. Go take them some food and bring me back a report of what's really happening." And so David comes to the battlefield. And this is the part that kind of gets me, because his brother, Eliab, the oldest brother, he makes a statement to David when he sees David. He says, "I know how conceited you are." So he tells David, "And how wicked your heart is." He said, "Why aren't you back home watching the sheep? He just goes off on David. I'm saying, why would he make that statement to David? And I think we can see later how David is proud. And David does have some wickedness within him. I'm just saying he does, and we all do. Let's not get it twisted. But David asked other soldiers, once he brushes his brother off, his proud self, he asked him, so what's going on? He said, well, the Philistine giant, he's challenged us. And he's made it very clear to King Saul that send one of your subjects over here to fight me. And if your subject win, then we'll fall up under your rulership. But if the giant wins, then we have to go up under their rulership. See, this is where they used to fight instead of shedding all this blood. He said, hey, you send out your number one, I send out my number one, and whoever wins, whoever loses will come up under the other leadership, rulership. They said, well, hold up. This is what you get. You get the king's daughter. You get one of his daughters. You become a man of wealth, and all your taxes, your family taxes are paid forever. I mean, David said, I'll take that bet. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that bet. I don't know about you, but you can keep your daughter. But them taxes being paid forever and that wealth, I'll take some of that. I'll take some of that. So David goes down. But just look at the soldiers. Just think about this situation. Because King Saul has some soldiers now. Let's be real. King Saul was chosen by God to be king because the people wanted a king like everybody else. You know, they had judges and God was their king, but they wanted a king, a human king, a fleshly king like every other nation, every other tribe. And so God gave him King Saul. We're told that King Saul was a strategist. I mean, he was bad in war. I mean, you didn't want to mess with King Saul. So his men are, I mean, they tight, they ready. But King Saul is shying away from battle. He's got a soft point in him for some reason. I don't know why, but he has this soft point because I'm thinking because the Bible tells us how handsome King Saul was, and he was tall. He was taller than everybody else around him. And I'm thinking that this is the first time he's seen someone taller than when he sees Goliath. The brother got some fear. Brother said, wow, I ain't never seen nobody that big. Put a little fear in my heart. But the men feed off of this. The army feeds off of this. So no one steps up. This little shepherd boy from humble beginnings steps into the battle. And he tells King Saul, I'll go fight on your behalf. And King Saul laughed at him at first and said, no, David, you're too small. Come on, you're too young for this. And David tells him about the bear he killed, the lion he killed, and how God spared him and rescued him. He says, he'll do it again. He'll do it again. He will rescue me from the hands of the Philistines. So King Saul says, bet. I mean, what do I have to lose? No one else will go over. We know the story. David goes over. He kills Goliath. He cuts his head off with his own sword. And there's a win. But this is my message to you. This is my conversation with all of you. Uh, when you look at the big picture of life, and you look at the hill that you're sitting on right now, and you look at the hill that your enemy, your adversaries, whoever they might be, sitting on, and there's a valley between you, do you just sit and just argue back and forth all day long? Do you just sit and point, or do you become like Joseph? Do you forgive so that you can get along, to move along? Or are you just simply wasting time because you think you have these 70 plus years and you have a lot of time left? Goliath was a giant, if you will, but also the soldiers upon the King Saul, they were giants in heart as well. But when the king shies away from battle, wow, be careful who your leader is. Because if your leader shies away, it's going to definitely do something to you. It's going to make you fear as well. I just pray that you understand that greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. Saul had this soft moment. Saul should have gave a victory speech, if you will, or a speech that made you want to go fight for him. Remember Mike Tyson made the speech, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth? That was King Saul to me. He got punched in the mouth when he seen Goliath and said, whoa, that's a big man over there. Then there's this slogan that the game isn't over until the fat lady sings. Don't ever throw in the towel. David says the game isn't over until the fat lady sings. And of course, you've heard of the old Notre Dame football coach, Luke Lockney, making the statement, win one for the Gipper. All David had to say was, win one for the Lord. And his men would have ran across that valley and tore up those Philistines, but he didn't have it in him. He had given in to his fear. Think about this. David wins the battle with Goliath. He gets favor with King Saul. until the people start singing these songs that Saul killed 1,000 and David killed 10,000. Saul got caught up into this number game. You see, he didn't want to fight Goliath, but now he wants to fight David. He wants to kill David because the people are cheering for David. Saul not realizing that he's conquered the wars because of David. That's when you get caught up into your head. So I've got a question for you. When you listen to the story of David, Goliath, King Saul, Jesse, his father, the soldiers, I mean, who in the story do you feel closely related to? Who are you more common with? Who do you feel that you can relate to in this particular story? Is it King David? Because let me tell you somebody's character. He was a shepherd boy from humble beginnings. And that's why he can relate to the people. Yeah. He was known for recognizing his dependency on God. That's a beautiful thing. David was also good looking. They said David was a handsome young man as well. He was courageous. He was loyal. He was supportive. He was selfless at times. He showed mercy. I mean, David is a man that everyone should want to resemble. And of course, he's a man after God's own heart. Wow, that's a beautiful thing. Then, of course, you have King Saul, who was put in position by God as king over the people because they wanted a king. But he's described as being handsome. I mean, like the handsomest man in the land. I mean, King Saul. I mean, he's a nice looking man from what they're saying. But at the beginning, he was described as a mighty man of valor who showed, watch this, he showed concern for his father. He listened to advice from the elders, from his friends. I mean, he protected the prophets, respected them. I mean, he listened to people who meant him well. But when he became king, boy, all that admiration, all those qualities along the journey, they left him. I mean, he became jealous. He became fearful. He became suspicious. He became paranoid. I mean, that's King Saul. And then he became disobedient to God, of all people. Or are you like Goliath? I told you, tall, 9 feet 9, a bully, a loud megaphone voice from Gath. I mean, but he was the Philistines' champion of war. I mean, who do you relate to? Now, you know the story, so most of you are gonna pick David, I'm quite sure, because you know the story. But take back a little bit and don't see the story from that perspective. Just be honest. I told you, honesty is the best policy. Who do you relate more with in this story? I'm gonna give you a moment. And keep in mind, everyone's answer will be different. But just ask yourself, who do I have more moments like? I mean, am I a conqueror like David? Am I jealous like King Saul? Or am I a bully like Goliath? Am I loud and obnoxious and uh, I make bad statements towards God? Okay. Did you come up with who you're more like? So let me tell you who I think you're more like, okay? Let me tell you who most people are like, the soldiers. No, not David, not King Saul, and not Goliath. The soldiers. You said, Donnie, whoa, hold up. What do you mean? I mean, you're more like the soldiers. You see, the soldiers are waiting for someone to step up to take on the challenge. They're waiting for someone to bail them out. They're waiting for someone to give them something, to rescue them, to give them reparation, if you will, to for some politicians to give them a policy that resolves their issues, for a pastor to pray over them, to pull a rabbit out of his hat, to relieve them from their addiction. See the people, yeah, the soldiers are looking for all this stuff because none of them step up. They all should have stepped up as one. But Goliath making that statement, he divided the whole camp by making the statement, send your best man over here to fight me. See, that put fear in all of them, even King Saul. So who are you more like? I mean, when you think about it, I think it's the soldiers. I think your characteristics are like the soldiers because the soldiers are followers. And most people are followers. They're waiting for someone to step up and lead them. Now they're loyal, but they're loyal to a fault. Is that you? I mean, be honest with yourself. You can't improve unless you become honest with yourself, because once you become honest, you can understand what your weaknesses are and you can work on them to make those weaknesses strengths. But if you're never honest with yourself, if you're always trying to act like you're the man and act like you're the woman, but you're not honest, you're just a follower. If you want to be a leader, you're going to have to be courageous like David. If you want to step up to the plate, you've got to be like Goliath in some sense. I mean, come on, he's a bully, but at least he stands for something. You've got to stand for something. You'll fall for everything. I just pray that your policy becomes one of honesty, that you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and you rescue yourself with the Lord on your side. David made it very clear. He killed the bear, he killed the lion, and you know that God would rescue him from the Philistines. God will rescue you from your situation right now. But you can't be like these social media influencers who are thirsty for millions of followers. And watch this. But they have no thirst to follow Jesus Christ as the Lord and Savior. They can't pick the one because they want the million. Is that you? I pray that's not you. I pray that you accept Romans 10 and 9 into your life, and that you confess and believe that Jesus is Lord and that God has raised him from the dead. You see, that's being honest with yourself, that you need a Savior, that you need help. And stop letting people push you and put you up for stuff that they wouldn't do themselves.